O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, and that we may seek it with wisdom and know it with certainty and accomplish it perfectly. For the glory and honor of thy name and the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory, and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabeg, Dakota Oiete, Dene Sulene, and the Othook nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making, and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Please be seated. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
On a matter of privilege.
The Honourable Member for Brandon West on a matter of privilege.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise this afternoon on a matter of privilege. As we all know, matters of privilege are incredibly important in this chamber, and I do not rise lightly. The ability for a member to freely participate in this chamber is non-negotiable. If we cannot do our jobs unobstructed, then the Manitobans that sent us to this very chamber are not represented in the lawmaking of our province. Bosch and Gagnon write at length about the privileges of a member in House of Commons Procedures and Practice, 3rd edition. These writings have informed much of what I say today. A matter of privilege must meet 2 criteria. The first of which is that it must be clear that a breach of privilege has occurred, and it must be a prima facie breach. The second is that I must be raising this matter at the first opportunity. Both of these conditions have been met, and Honourable Speaker, I ask that you consider what I'm presenting to you carefully. Reading the news yesterday evening, I was shocked to see an article quoting this Premier discussing the contents of a bill with media and answering questions. This was shocking because I know this Premier is aware of the rules and is aware of the fact that this House has the right to know legislation first. This is a long-standing tradition of our legislative system and incredibly well documented by rulings from previous speakers. In April of 2013, Speaker Scheer reaffirmed this long-standing practice, and I quote, "It is a well-established practice that the contents of a bill are kept confidential until introduced in Parliament, thus making their premature disclosure a serious matter." I table a copy of the article for your consideration, Honourable Speaker, and I'm sure the Minister of Families will rise in a couple of minutes and try and explain away the latest in the NDP hit parade of instances of contempt of this notice. Bill 34 has been on the order paper for some time, but the government House Leader has yet to find the time to actually introduce this legislation in anything more than name. So we, members of this House, are unable to do the job that Manitobans have sent us here to do. I find myself once again borrowing from previous rulings of Speaker Regan federally. On June 8, 2017, he summarized the scenario we find ourselves in quite succinctly, and I quote, "The right of the House to first access to legislation is one of our oldest conventions. It does and must, however, coexist with the need of government to consult widely with the public and stakeholders alike on issues and policies in the preparation of legislation." I have to agree with him, Honourable Speaker. There's a balance of responsibilities, and good legislation should be consulted with Manitobans to ensure it adequately reflects the needs of our province. But there is a line that has been repeatedly crossed. My colleague from Agassiz rose in this House previously about labour legislation, that has still not been introduced in this House. The Canadian Labour Congress gave a briefing to media alongside this Premier and his minister, and now the NDP's biggest booster, the Manitoba Federation of Labour, is paying to flood the airwaves with ads talking about specific provisions of bills that have not even been introduced in this House, even as of today. This is a pattern, Honourable Speaker. This area is so firmly entrenched that there is much precedent to draw from, and some speakers have not minced their words, like Speaker Milliken in March of 2001. And I quote, "Once a bill has been placed on notice, whether it has been presented in a different form to a different session of Parliament has no bearing, and the bill is considered a new matter. The convention of the confidentiality of bills on notice is necessary, not only so that members themselves may be well informed, but also because of the preeminent role which this House plays and must play in the legislative affairs of this nation. Thus, the issue of denying members information that they need to do their work has been the key consideration for the chair in reviewing this particular question of privilege. To deny to members information concerning businesses that is about to come before the House, while at the same time providing such information to media that will likely be questioning members about that business, is a situation that the chair cannot condone," unquote. These words are intentional, and they are all true. It is a situation that he felt the chair cannot condone. Those are strong words chosen for a reason. This quote is similar to Speaker Fraser's December 1986 ruling. Quote, "I think it is appropriate for the chair to remind all honourable members that these kinds of incidents can cause grave concern among honourable members, and I believe it is a good reason why extra special care should be taken, especially by ministers, to ensure that matters that ought properly be brought to the House do not in any way get out in the public domain and cause concern to honourable members and often to ministers as well," end quote. I have been asked repeatedly by media to comment on this legislation, to respond to comments made by members of this government and now this Premier. Unfortunately, I cannot give informed opinions until I am able to read legislation. That is why the rules that we have are in place, Honourable Speaker. It protects the public and the rights of society by ensuring that a government with an agenda can't just hide from accountability. This is the exact scenario that Speaker Milliken was addressing. This is most concerning, Honourable Speaker, because this government could so readily fix this. They could stand in their place and introduce these bills, give the general public the same access to potential legislation that they're giving their union bosses. Give opposition members the same access that they're given the chosen media outlets. I suspect that the government House Leader will rise and put the blame on me again and my colleagues because she justifies the actions of her leader under any circumstances. Gordon Sinclair Jr. has written extensively on this behavioral quirk. I say that, what we on this side of the aisle have been saying all along. If the government would just stop breaking the rules, we could stop addressing these matters and get back to debating important legislation. To quote from a ruling of Speaker Regan from May 7th, 2018, quote, Underscoring the importance of the House's right of first access to bills, the member contended that it is unacceptable that members have to play catch-up on public debate on government legislation. And this legislation is occurring between a well-briefed media and the Minister of Justice, unquote. He concludes, quote, when new ways through technology or otherwise are found to share information, it remains incumbent upon those who are responsible for legislative information to respect the primacy of Parliament by respecting the right of the House to first access. Members should never have to even so much as wonder if they were not the first to receive this legislative information. Well, Honourable Speaker, I know I'm wondering why I am not the first to receive this legislative information. I'm wondering why the rules don't seem to apply to this Premier and his team, or at least don't seem to apply at all. We are all here representing tens of thousands of Manitobans. We are supposed to have the shared goal of making life better for them, of being leaders in our communities. But instead, we have a government that is tactically withholding information in an attempt to score cheap political wins. And then they're doing it again and again and again and again. I am blessed to have an opportunity to learn about leadership from some incredibly personal and professional mentors over my many years in law enforcement. And what I learned has stuck with me. And I think it's made me who I am today. You lead by example, and you never expect any less from yourself as you would expect from those who work for you. In this case, this Premier is demonstrating improper behavior, and it is clearly circulating among his ministers. This is a pattern of behavior that must stop. Yep. In March of 2018, Speaker Reagan touched on this issue in response to a matter of privilege pertaining to media being given access to briefing materials that Parliament was not. In giving his ruling, he notes, and I quote, given this reality, there is a rightful expectation that those responsible for the information should do their utmost to ensure members' access to it. Not respecting this expectation does a disservice to all. It is particularly disconcerting when the government gives priority to the media over the members of Parliament.
Order, please. I think the member is repeating himself quite often on his points, and he's also straying off into making a political speech, which isn't part of a matter of privilege. So I'd ask the member to wrap it up pretty quickly and get to his point. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you for your guidance on that, Honourable Speaker. This is a very important matter of privilege, and I am just very shortly wrapping this up, but I want to put these important words on the record for your consideration.
Get up next.
Order. The honourable member for Brandon West has the floor.
In March of 2018, Speaker Reagan touched on this issue in response to a matter of privilege pertaining to media being given access to briefing material that Parliament was not. In giving his ruling, he notes, and I quote, given this reality, there is a rightful expectation that those responsible for the information should do their utmost to ensure members' access to it. Not respecting this expectation does a disservice to us all, Honourable Speaker. It is particularly disconcerting when the government gives priority to the media over the members of Parliament.
Order, please. Once again, the member is repeating himself and repeating himself. If he would wrap this up right away, it would be greatly appreciated. If he has something new to add, fine, but if he's just going to keep repeating what he's already said, he needs to wrap it up. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you for your counsel again, Honourable Speaker, and I am coming to conclusion very shortly. Though the situations are different namely that while this Premier will talk to media before a bill is introduced...
Order, please. I've asked the member to quit repeating himself. He should now quit repeating himself, listen to what I've said, and get to the conclusion of his matter of privilege quickly. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Yes, well, I was just finishing off this quote, Honourable Speaker. Regan's words are pertinent because clearly this Premier is giving everyone priority but this House. These past speakers have reaffirmed what I know, which is a new member is evidently much more than what members opposite are providing. It is a fact that this government needs to table bills in this House before speaking of them in public and in detail. Considering this pattern of behavior, I move, seconded by the member for Interlake Gimli, that the member for Fort Rouge be held in contempt of this House and that the matter be referred to an all-party committee for consideration.
Before recognizing any other members to speak, I would like to remind the House that remarks at this time by honourable members are to be limited strictly to relevant comments about whether the alleged matter of privilege has been raised at the earliest opportunity and whether a prima facie case has been established. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. Well, day 2 of the member for Brandon West wasting all of our time here in the chamber with erroneous, far-stretching, and quite honestly, boring matters of privilege. Honourable Speaker, let me just say this. I'm glad that the member for Brandon West is attempting once again to read the paper. I would encourage him for a second day in a row to read the paper properly. I would disabuse what the member is attempting to put on the record here in respect of a matter of privilege. His privileges as a member of the Manitoba Legislative Assembly are not unobstructed. There is no prima facie case, and I would question whether or not this is the earliest opportunity for him to rise yet again on a matter of privilege. He has presented nothing new, Honourable Speaker. What I do want to, and I want to say this, Honourable Speaker,
Order, please. A matter of privilege is a very important matter. People need to be able to hear what's being said, so I would expect everyone else, and I mean everyone else, to sit quietly. The Honourable Government House Leader.
I'm going to keep my comments very short here, Honourable Speaker, because we do have guests in the gallery that every day for the last. So, you know, the member for Brandon West is again bringing up erroneous and fictitious matters of privilege, and he wonders why he's, you know, asking about breaking the rules of the House. Again, I think the member for Brandon West and I have established that he's new here. He's been only elected for a couple of minutes. So let me just remind the member, or share with the member and remind members opposite there, how in 2020, when they were in their failed government, members opposite got up in the House, they introduced bill after bill after bill after bill, and yet what they did not do—
Order, please. I've just cautioned members about sitting quietly while a member's talking about a matter of privilege. If I have to stand up again, I'll start naming members. Is that clear? I hope it is. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker, let me just finish this. In 2020, members opposite, when they were in their failed government, got up every single day to introduce bills, and what they didn't do was actually physically give the bills out. And so it is the audacity to get up here today for a second day in a row for the member to say, again, some matter of privilege that simply does not exist, when he could look at his members and ask them why they did that in 2020. Finally, Honourable Speaker, if the member would cease to continue to get up and allow us to get on with the work of the House, he will see that the Minister of Justice is actually, in fact, going to be introducing that bill today. Miigwech.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. On the same matter of privilege, it has been raised several times that legislation has been shared externally prior to it being introduced inside of the Manitoba Legislature. It is important that no matter who is in government, who is planning to introduce legislation, it is done in good faith and out of good practice that MLAs be able to see the content of legislation prior to it being introduced here in the House. This is a privilege that we as MLAs have, Honourable Speaker. It is a gray area for members to be able to go out and talk about the legislation publicly before it has been formally introduced inside of the House. It impedes the ability of legislators to do their job when biases are being formed in public and the verdict has already been formed in the court of public opinion. Discussions should not reveal any details of upcoming legislation to ensure that the authority of the legislature is not infringed upon. This is why it is common practice for press conferences or media briefings after legislation has been introduced to occur. Honourable Speaker, this is not the first time this issue has arisen, and I would encourage the Speaker to take this under advisement and report back to the House.
A matter of privilege is a serious concern. I'm going to take the matter under advisement to consult the authorities and will return to the House with a ruling. Before we proceed to routine proceedings, there's quite a few guests in the gallery that I would like to take the opportunity to introduce. First, we have seated in the public gallery from Morning Glory School 25 students under the direction of Walter Wiebe and William Tetzlaw, and they're guests of the Honourable Member for Steinbach. I would like to draw the attention I would further draw the attention of all honourable members to the public gallery where we have with us today the Mining Association of Manitoba Board of Directors, Stacey Kennedy, Mammy President, Richard Trudeau, Vice President, Joey Champagne, Secretary Treasurer, Robert Bosch, Member, Rob Carter, Member, Committee Co-Chairs, Jeff Fontaine, Environment, Pam Marsden, Indigenous Relations, Landis Yestra, Environment, who are guests of the Honourable Member for St. Vital. Welcome. Also in the public gallery, we have with us today Miss Reed's grade 1 and 2 class from Emerson Elementary School, who are the guests of the Honourable Member for Kildonan River East. And on behalf of all members, welcome. And I would also like to draw attention of all honourable members to the public gallery where we have with us today from the Canadian Propane Association, Robert Lionheart, Chris Crawford, who are guests of the Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie. Welcome. Routine proceedings. Introduction of bills. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Honourable. Expected applause. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, seconded by the Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism, that Bill number 34, the Liquor, Gaming, and Cannabis Control Amendment Act, be now read a first time.
There you go.
It has been moved by the Honourable Minister of Justice, seconded by the Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism, that Bill number 34, the Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Control Amendment Act, be now read a first time. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Here, here.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Much anticipated.
I am pleased to rise in the House today to introduce first reading of Bill 34, the Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Control Amendment Act. This bill will amend the Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Control Act to repeal the prohibition on residential cultivation of cannabis, otherwise known as home grow. The repeal would align Manitoba with most provinces by allowing adults aged 19 and older to grow up to 4 cannabis plants per residence, as permitted under the Federal Cannabis Act. The proposed legislative amendments also create the authority for safety and security requirements to be established in regulation. Our government understands that consumer interest in cannabis may vary. This bill provides Manitobans flexibility to grow cannabis at home should they choose to in a safe and secure manner. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Great.
Committee reports. Oh, is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed and so ordered. The motion is carried. Agreed. So, committee reports. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am pleased to table the annual report of the Manitoba Watershed District Program for 2022-23. Thank you.
Ministerial reports. Member statements. The Honourable Member for Kildonan River East.
Honourable Speaker, recently I attended a community smudge event hosted by Emerson and Maple Leaf schools in the River East Transcona School Division. I was grateful to witness the two schools working together to learn about smudging alongside the divisional elder. A couple days after the event, I received a handwritten letter from Vaughn in Miss Reed's grade 1 and 2 class, who join us today in the gallery. I would like to read from her letter and will table copies at the end of my statement. Vaughn wrote, "Thanks for taking care of our community. I wish that I will be one of you. You are so cool. I love you." From Vaughn. When I got this letter, I was so touched. Sometimes the days can get long, and we can easily forget the light and happiness that exists in our communities. Even the smallest interactions can have a lasting impact. Showing up for our constituents does make a difference. I'm so grateful to Vaughn, her class, and her teacher, Miss Reed, for this letter. When I was in school, the MLA for Rossmere, Harry Schellenberg, showed up at our school function for me and left a lasting impact on my life. I hope we can all remember that this is why we show up here, why showing up in our community matters. We're setting an example for the next generation of leaders. So thank you, Vaughn, for taking the time to send me this letter, and thank you, Miss Reed, and your class. You're making more of a difference than you'll ever know.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Here, here. Nice.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to recognize an outstanding tourism attraction and farm in La Vérendrye. Guy and Leah Bouchard, a farming family from the Gardenton area, have won Travel Manitoba's Sustainable Tourism Award.
Nice.
Their farm, Green Pastures, was one of 4 Manitoba businesses nominated in the Sustainable Tourism category. The Sustainable Tourism Award is presented to an organization, tourism business, facility, event, or attraction that demonstrates a commitment to economic, social, and environmental sustainability and works to mitigate any harmful impact in these areas. Green Pastures is a second-generation, 160-acre family farm on the banks of the Roseau River where they raise turkeys, sheep, and plant crops. They are proud and intentional about being committed to sustainability and being good stewards for our environment. In 2023, the Bouchards decided to create a farming experience to keep the family busy during their off-season. They started Farm, Fiber, Food and Friends last fall, where visitors are invited to slow down, connect, create and enjoy a simpler life. The experience is eco-friendly, waste-free, and uses local ingredients and supplies produced on their farm. Although their farm experience is unique, what isn't unique is the passion for animals, land, and the environment. These characteristics are similar to many other farmers across my constituency and our province. I am proud to see the Bouchards' passion and pride for agriculture and look forward to seeing how their tourism product will continue to showcase the lifestyle so many Manitobans are passionate about.
Here, here.
The Honourable Member for River Heights.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today in celebration of the incredible work being done by the two business zones in my constituency, the Academy Road Biz and the Quarter Ave Biz, the latter of which I share with my colleagues from Fort Rouge and Fort Garry. A business improvement zone, or BIZ, is an association of business owners who join together to promote the economic and social well-being of a district through a range of volunteer-led marketing, beautification, safety, and advocacy initiatives. Governed by a board and funded through a member-based property tax levy, these incredibly hard-working individuals play a huge role in stimulating the local economy and in making our communities more vibrant and livable. In River Heights, Honourable Speaker, some of the BIZ activities are legendary, including the hugely successful Academy Road Street Fair and Corden Ave's much-anticipated summer concert series. While it's long been clear that small business is the backbone of the economy, I've been greatly impressed by their dedication to the overall social well-being of the community through their engagement in programming such as seasonal decorating, graffiti removal, crime prevention, improving safety and accessibility, and the development of art installations and green spaces. These energetic community ambassadors, along with their small support staff, help strengthen existing local businesses, attract new ones to the area, and create the kind of community that allow us to live, work, and play right in our own neighborhoods. Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased that Tom Scott from the Corden Ave Biz is in the gallery with us today, representing the many other board members unable to make it in the middle of a workday. I ask all members join me in thanking them for their hard work and their dedication to improving life in our communities.
The Honourable Member for Interlake Gimli.
I rise today to recognize an Interlake institution that has been in existence for over 100 years. The Fraserwood Hall was founded in 1921, then known as the Ukrainian National People's Home of Taras Shevchenko. Originally, this was a place for immigrants to gather and read the newspaper and books, including the poetry of Taras Shevchenko. From the original building's opening through many additions, it remained in use for 80 years. Time, as it does, was catching up on the old hall, so in 1993, planning and fundraising began for a new Fraserwood Hall. 10 years, and we'll say millions of pierogies later, ground was broken on the new Fraserwood Hall, with construction finishing the following year. A new page was turned in the staple of the Interlake. The new Fraserwood Hall has continued to be the central gathering place for the community for 20 years now, serving not only the town of Fraserwood, but people come from all over the Interlake to take part in events held at the hall. The Fraserwood Hall keeps a very busy schedule, from weekly bingos, dinners, socials, old-time dances, weddings, and all-you-can-eat pierogi nights. I just attended an outstanding all-you-can-eat pierogi event that last weekend, $20 for a kubasa, a beverage, and yes, all-you-can-eat pierogies. The Fraserwood Hall is a favorite spot on the community's dance card with regular old-time dances. Please join me in thanking the hardworking volunteers, board, and members of the Fraserwood Hall for keeping this vital community institution vibrant and successful well into its second century, and happy 20th anniversary on your new hall.
The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and mabuhay. Maganda tanghali po. I rise this afternoon to share with the House some details about Mabuhay, a new musical that will be showcased from June 27th till July 14th at Rainbow Stage. The musical is about 3 young singers who compete to win Star on the Rise, which is a reality TV singing competition that has come to Canada straight from the Philippines. Through many dance numbers and pop songs, the musical will take us from backstage to onstage, as well as from the past to the present, incorporating Winnipeg to the Philippines with some amazing talent and characters to help us cheer on our favorite contestant. This hilarious musical will have dramatic expressions of Filipino culture, with the main takeaway being the importance of challenging the grass is greener, assumptions with respect to culture, money, and fame. It encourages people to find their voice and discover the value of home. Honorable Speaker, when I asked the volunteers why this musical was important to them, they talked about how it is history in the making right here in Manitoba, and an inspiration for visible minorities who are underrepresented to be aware that there is support for every voice to be heard, and the performing arts can provide this opportunity. Now, Honorable Speaker, what makes this musical so unique is that it was created by Joseph Civillo, a Filipino born and based in Winnipeg. He has joined us in the gallery here today with Executive Director of Rainbow Stage, Andrea Pratt-McDowell, Artistic Director of Rainbow Stage, Carson Natras, and 6 cast members, volunteers, and choreographers, including Ramon, Joy, Duchess, Victoria, Arnold, and JL. I ask that my colleagues join me in celebrating their upcoming musical, Mabuhay.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and welcome to all our guests in the gallery today. Honourable Speaker, we know that the Premier has dodged and deflected from the question all week. What does he know about the Minister of Labour and Immigration making threats to hopeful Manitobans, and when did he know about it? Because according to the member from Brandon East, if the Premier has the courage to call for an investigation, and when Minister of Labour and Immigration goes down for her abuse of power, according to the member from Brandon East, they're all going down. Why is the NDP leader covering up for the Minister of Labour and Immigration's actions on threatening hopeful new Manitobans?
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to take a moment just to put on the record that for the students who encouraged our member for Kildonan River East with their good words, we thank you, and that their reflection that these hallowed halls are open for any Manitoban to serve in, well, we're living proof that that is true, and so we encourage them to pursue their great dreams and destiny. I know that the Minister of Labour and Immigration is one of those case studies. She is a second-generation person to serve in these hallowed halls. And when I see the humility, when I see the community connections, when I see the passion that she brings forward, I know that she stands up as a remarkable public servant who many young Manitobans want to model themselves after. And so, yes, she has my complete confidence. We have done a draw last week. We are doing a draw this week. We're doing another draw again next week. The good work of welcoming more Manitobans continues.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
So, once again, Honourable Speaker, it seems that this Premier's words are one thing, but his actions are completely opposite to what he's saying. Honourable Speaker, the issue of Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program applicants being afraid of this government is absolutely serious, and members opposite, unfortunately, think it's a laughing matter. If he's so confident there was no wrongdoing, why won't the Premier ask for an independent investigation to clear the air?
The Honourable First Minister.
There are so many good things being done by our Minister of Labour and Immigration. I just want to take this opportunity to thank her for her remarkable service to the people of Manitoba. In just a few months since taking office, not only has she conducted multiple draws for the provincial nominee program, but she has done extensive outreach across the entirety of the province. She's visited northern Manitoba, she's visited Eastman, Westman, she's visited southern Manitoba, in the heart of the Pembina Valley, spending hours talking to employers about meeting labor market needs in a way that advances workforce development in our province, but also welcomes new Manitobans to this great place to call it home. One crucial bit of feedback she's heard at every stop along the way: they were never visited by the PCs for the past 7.5 years.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary question.
So once again, Honourable Speaker, no answers coming from this Premier. Matter of fact, more dodging and deflecting every time this Premier stands up. Honourable Speaker, since we shed light on this issue, more individuals have come forward to corroborate the story. We've heard that the Minister, the MLA for Notre Dame, and the Premier has both been in the room when the threats had happened. We have heard audio recordings relaying the Minister's threats of consequences. If the Premier won't call an independent investigation, would he at least be willing to cooperate with any investigation that does take place? Simple or no?
The Honourable First Minister.
You know, it's interesting to hear this coming from the member opposite, given that he's launched an investigation of the shameful conduct by the PC party at the behest of the Stephenson government in last year's provincial election. I look forward to him tabling the results of said investigation with this chamber. On the substantive matters at hand that are raised when it comes to labor and immigration, we hear questions about draws, we hear questions about what is being done to help postgraduate work permit holders. Again, there was a draw held last week. There's a draw being held today. There's another draw scheduled for next week. And when it comes to continued work status for postgraduate work permit holders here in Manitoba, we're hard at work with the federal government and look forward to sharing more good news on an important substantive step forward for these Manitobans very soon.
The Honourable Member for Fort White.
Honourable Speaker, there is no stopping this out-of-control spending machine called the NDP. And worse yet, there's no plan. They made impossible and irresponsible promises during their campaign. Manitobans, hold on to your seats. Your gross debt under this NDP will increase to over $60 billion this time next year. To put that in perspective, every single Manitoban's share of this debt will be $40,000. With all of this uncontrolled spending and debt, will the Minister of Finance stand up today and guarantee that Manitoba's credit rating will not be downgraded?
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to take this opportunity to thank our Finance Minister, first and foremost, for making life more affordable for the people of Manitoba. A provincial government like ours, we can't do everything, but we can take some important steps to help you, the people of Manitoba, and that's what we did. With one of our first steps in office, we cut the PC gas tax, 14 cents a litre, on January 1st of this year. That's right. The upshot of that is that for 3 consecutive months, we've had the lowest inflation rate of any province in the entire country. Now, here's the thing. We know that there's so much more work to do. We know that Manitobans are still struggling with high interest rates and, again, the lagging impacts of inflation felt these past few years, which, of course, they never took action on during their time in office. So we're here to say that we're going to continue to work with you, the people.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Fort White on a supplementary question.
If the Premier wants to thank the Minister of Finance so much, why won't the Minister of Finance stand up today and defend his terrible, fiscally irresponsible budget? He won't, because the facts are simple, Honorable Speaker. $60 billion of debt under this NDP. $40,000 of debt for every single Manitoban. $148 million tax increase under this NDP. And $2 billion in debt payments on the interest alone under this NDP. And to top it all off, there is no plan. On page 101 of this Minister of Finance's budget, his plan is only quoted as diversify its borrowing plan. End quote. That is not a plan, Honorable Speaker. Will the minister stand up today and tell Manitobans what his plan is?
Member's time has expired. The Honourable First Minister.
Well, on the question of whether members rise or stand in their place, I just want to point out that the leader of the PC party couldn't bring himself to stand and vote against our budget. That's how good Budget 2024 really is. Now, we know that some of the affordability steps that we've taken when it comes to cutting the provincial gas tax, when it comes to helping the average person have more money in their hand at the end of the month, well, we're taking important steps, but we recognize that there's more work to be done. That's why our team has been working with the investment banks and the rating agencies to ensure that our credit worthiness continues to make strong steps in a positive direction. And I am pleased to report back to the House that the initial responses we've heard to Budget 2024 have been very positive from the people of Manitoba, but very positive from the financial industry as well.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Fort White on a final supplementary question.
Honorable Speaker, once again, this Minister of Finance will not stand up and defend his terrible budget that is adding $60 billion of debt to Manitobans under this NDP. If the Minister of Finance likes it so much, why won't he stand up today? The smoke and mirrors of the NDP are starting to clear, and Manitobans are seeing gas prices are higher now than they were on January 1st. Grocery prices are higher now than they've ever been. They're higher here than they are in Saskatchewan and Ontario. Renters are paying more. Homeowners are paying $148 million more. Every single Manitoban will pay $40,000 more in debt because of this NDP. Since the Minister of Finance's strategy is so terrible, will the Minister of Finance at least say and promise and guarantee Manitoba the credit rating will not...
The Honourable First Minister.
I just want to point out the difficult truth that we're confronted with here each and every day, which is that the finance critic for the PC party doesn't understand commodity prices. Doesn't understand the economy. That's tough. Again, I want to set the record straight with a simple fact. Manitoba has the lowest gas prices in the entire country because of the actions of our finance minister. And while our provincial government is not able to contain the global fluctuations in commodity prices, we are able to cut taxes and to save you money each and every day. And so I would like to invite the finance critic of the Progressive Conservative Party to humble himself before our Minister of Finance and ask, please, would you help enlighten me on how to save Manitobans money?
He'll teach you. He'll teach you.
The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
Honourable Speaker, this government is saying one thing and doing another. This minister says she encourages immigration but slams the table and threatens applicants in closed-door meetings. This premier said that draws took place last week. I tabled that quote for the House, but no draws are reported.
Wow.
Why are these draws not being reported as all others are?
Shame.
The Honourable Minister for Labour and Immigration.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, more slander from members opposite today. That's all that they have on offer, unfortunately, for the good people of Manitoba. My son, who is 7, overheard some adult conversation regarding this PC slander. He asked me on the way home from church on Sunday, "Why are they saying this about you?" I can't remember my exact response, but I remember his clear reply to me, and I'm going to remember this for a long time. He said, "Nanay, the opposite of a threat is helping, and you are helping people." Honorable Speaker, our NDP team is helping Manitoba.
The honourable member for Gassey on a supplementary question.
I am just as passionate about this issue as that member opposite. I too am helping people. Honourable Speaker, what the minister has spent her time saying in this House is categorically untrue. She speaks to the health of our provincial nominee system, so I table for her a chart compiled from public data. So far this year, she has issued 1,774 invitations. In the same time period in 2022, our government here issued 2,146. And last year, in the same time period, 4,373. This minister talks a big game, so I ask a simple question. Why is she only doing 1/3 of
Member's time has expired.
As our
The Honourable Minister of Labour and Immigration.
Honourable Speaker, my son is 100% right. Our NDP team is about helping people. Okay? We are working towards an agreement with the federal government to allow thousands of temporary foreign workers to stay here in Manitoba. We are prioritizing the processing for those whose work permits are expiring, and we are making draws for newcomers every 2 to 3 weeks, including today, and I'll table that for the members opposite. Honourable Speaker, Budget 2024 brings resources to get the MPNP back to its former glory. We're doing all this and more. My son is 100% right.
The Honourable Member for Gassey on a final supplementary question.
My the document I tabled includes today's numbers, Honourable Speaker. This minister threatened to cancel draws after applicants protested in January. Well, the chart I tabled shows that in February and March, this government issued far fewer application letters than in 2022 and 2023. This minister can clearly made good on her threat. So I asked the minister, why did she only start drawing again earlier today after we brought her scandal to light?
The Honourable Minister for Labour and Immigration.
Honourable Speaker, there was an MPNP draw today. Just like there have been numerous draws since we took office in October. In fact, by the end of April 2024, Honourable Speaker, there will have been 3 draws just this month. These draws are essential in meeting Manitoba's long-term economic goals and skills for development, and this is a priority for our government. I will repeat for the members opposite, by the end of April, there will have been 3 draws for PNP in just alone in this month of April. Members want to divide, but it is our government that brings people together to work towards solutions like Budget 2024 that includes $1 million to properly resource our MPNP program, something that members opposite never did.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, throughout Manitoba, communities rely on our amazing provincial nominee program to bring in hopeful new Manitobans. I remind this House this program was created by a PC government, and it was our previous PC government that won dramatically more allocations from the federal government. We built it, we grew it, and now this minister is trying to destroy it. Why is this NDP minister playing political games with the lives of potential newcomers?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's my pleasure to stand up and make a comment about the importance of agriculture in the province of Manitoba. I want to acknowledge the member opposite from Portage-La Prairie as we took a drive down to Brandon yesterday and observed the hard work of the producers out there, out in the field, and the importance of what agriculture is to our province of Manitoba. And I think today is more importantly to take acknowledgement of the risk and challenges our agriculture producers face in today's society and what they contribute to our economy in the province of Manitoba. I want to show an acknowledgement and a clap of hands of the importance of agriculture producers in the province of Manitoba.
Yep. Honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, members opposite continue to dodge and duck and deprive Manitobans of any real answers. This minister threatened hardworking Manitobans just looking to stay in this amazing province. These people have built lives, invested in our economy, and contribute to our economies, and this minister thanks them for this with threats and slamming the table. Will this minister stand in her place and apologize to every applicant who is now fearful of this government's retribution?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and some of the appropriate wording that the members opposite use about the lies and the threats. Let me bring forward the question, and I make a wholesome invitation to the member opposite and anybody else that chooses to join me in the future, to join me in a discussion with a number of agriculture producers referring to the Crown lands. And the opportunity where these people, where this government chose to make a decision to talk about taking away the importance of their livelihood. And I wonder why the member opposite is choosing not to entertain that. But I will welcome
Member's
you.
time has expired. Order. Order. The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
These are people's lives, Honourable Speaker. We're not talking hypotheticals or legislation. We're talking about the lives who have chosen, of all the places in the world to come to, Manitoba, home, or at least they tried to. This minister's response to get on board or get out. This is not leadership, this is not compassion, and it's certainly not becoming a minister of the Crown. Out of respect for all of these applicants, this minister must resign today.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And I beg to differ with the member opposite. I've known the Minister of Immigration and her family for a lot of years, even in my previous time of existence in the government of Manitoba. And for those accusations to be brought forward, I would challenge the member opposite to go out and ask the general public of the importance of what this minister has done for the province of Manitoba and what her family has done and what the culture has done for the province of Manitoba. I beg to differ with the members opposite and show some respect to our minister to deal with the immigration.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, as we've already heard today, this NDP Premier has no plan to reduce the debt from the backs of Manitobans. In fact, they are planning to borrow more and more, adding $5 billion to net debt by next spring. Total public debt will be over $40,000 per Manitoban by next year. How is this new NDP debt going to affect our credit rating in 4 years? And will Manitobans be paying even more interest to bankers in Toronto and New York when this Premier and Finance Minister are done?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker, and miigwech to my critic for the question. It does allow me to put on the record some of the good things that we're doing in Budget 2024. In fact, the member opposite hasn't even asked me one single question on the good work that we're doing in respect to families in our budget. So I do want to take this opportunity to put some of that on the record. This year, we are implementing a $20 million fund that will flow through the Women and Gender Equity to support an MMIWG 2S strategy. I also want to put on the record that in the last 6 months since we've formed government, that member opposite hasn't gotten up once in this House to ask about MMIWG 2S.
The honourable member for Midland on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, every time I've asked a question from this minister, all we get is yelling and shouting and attacking. Still no answers from this Premier and this NDP minister. At the rate of spending under this NDP finance minister, Manitobans will have more than $80 billion in debt by the end of their mandate. That's $40,000 in debt per Manitoban. This will rise to $54,000 for every Manitoban living today. The Premier needs to stop listening to Justin Trudeau. Budgets do not balance themselves. This Finance Minister and Premier need to actually propose a plan to get us to balance and to start paying down the debt that they've created. What is their plan? What are they telling the credit rating agencies, and why won't they tell Manitobans the truth about their borrowing and spending plans?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. So as I was saying, Budget 2024 is also investing $2.7 million towards the National Action Plan to end gender-based violence. Again, I want to put on the record that the member opposite has not asked me one single question in respect of gender-based violence. Considering that Manitoba has some of the highest levels, you would think that she would have made that a priority, but she didn't. We've also invested in Budget 2024 $1.4 million to the Sexual Assault Crisis Response and Healing Programs with Gani Ganitsik, HSC, and Clinic doing wraparound supports for those Manitobans that are facing
Member's
sexual assault.
time has expired. The honourable member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
Sounds like this NDP government is taking a playbook from Sellinger. Every year, Sellinger would spend more than budgeted and end up bigger and bigger deficits and more public debt that was saddled on the backs of hardworking Manitobans. This Premier is jeopardizing our credit rating and mortgaging the future of all Manitobans. This will impact investment and job creation of people looking to spend money here in our province. What is this finance minister telling the credit rating agencies, and what is their plan to get us out of deficit and out of debt and stop putting the debt on the backs of hardworking Manitobans?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
So to continue along with the good work that we're doing, we've invested $20 million in funding for community living disability services and children's disability services. Also, Honourable Speaker, another question that my critic has never once gotten up to ask me about. We have also committed to free contraceptives for all Manitobans. We've doubled the fertility treatment tax credit, and we've doubled the prenatal benefit to $162. As well, Honourable Speaker, we've increased $1.2 million to Manitoba Possible, including Manitoba Possible's wheelchair repair program, something they could care less about.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it was rich to hear the Premier pretend that Brandon has not been on the forefront of our questions in this House. But I do understand his confusion, since his entire cabinet sits and reads from prepared statements rather than listens to the questions. So I asked the member for Brandon East a question that he's dodged so far. When can Brandon expect the other $1.75 million in annual funding that is our fair share?
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Order.
think we're...
The Honourable Minister Justice.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I think we're getting the sense that not only the finance critic over there didn't have a chance to read and comprehend the budget, but the member opposite may not have caught on either. The member for Brandon West should know very clearly that funding for Brandon, along with all municipalities across the province, has actually increased this year for the first time in 7.5 years. And that funding was asked for by AMM year after year. This government went to their convention. They ignored AMM. We'll work with AMM. We'll work with the cities. And we'll make sure the funding is...
The Honourable Member for Brandon West on a supplementary question.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. And since the member from Brandon East loves his sports analogies, I would say that's 2 minutes for delay of game.
Yay! Here, here.
Based on the facts, we can't get a straight answer to an incredibly simple question.
Order.
Really just filling space, it seems. We have continually asked for Brandon to get the respect it deserves, and it's sad that only 2/3 of Brandon's MLAs are advocating for the city. Why does this minister refuse to push for fair funding for Brandon?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, not only does the member from Brandon West not understand finance, he apparently doesn't understand hockey either, because it's in fact his party that's been holding up legislation in this legislature rather than getting to work. But the reality is that of course, we respect and we work with the good people of Brandon. We meet with the mayor on a regular basis. We have nothing but glowing quotes and reviews from the current chief of police over in Brandon. And in fact, we've increased our funding significantly by over $300,000 specifically for crime and police funding. We on this side of the House are standing with the people of Brandon, standing for community safety all across this province.
The Honourable Member for Brandon West on a final supplementary question.
Even though I only get 45 seconds, I'd love the time to spend speaking about all of the great things that this side of the House did for Brandon while in government. So, must understand that there's been underfunding, cancelling of new schools, cancelling of daycare spaces, calling a moonscape a repaired road. This minister has done nothing to advocate for our community. Why is this minister sold out to Brandon as soon as he got housing allowance in Winnipeg?
Hey, oh!
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
He lives in my constituency.
Order. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Let's talk about this member's record in Brandon. Over his time as police chief, a 17% increase in reported assault, 43% increase in sexual assaults, 31% increase in frauds, 80% increase in offensive weapon crime. Violent crime went up by 29%. And what did the member for Brandon West say at the time? He said when he was police chief, while BPS had the authority to lay charges under provincial regulations, they didn't have the necessary resources to follow up on all complaints. Why didn't they have the necessary rebates? Why didn't they have the proper resources? It's because this member stood with a party that didn't fund the police, didn't fund Brandon, and still won't stand up for the city of Brandon.
The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Situations involving children and youth presenting violent behaviours has caused incredibly dangerous situations and seems to be happening more and more often. We are seeing this escalating rapidly at the Children's ER over the past few months. Does this minister believe that using institutional safety officers is going to resolve this problem, or does the minister have any further plans in mind?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I appreciate that really important question from the member in regards to safety at emergency rooms. The previous government had 7.5 years to take action and to take measures to make sure that healthcare workers and that patients alike are safe at hospitals. Our government, one of the first things we did, knowing the safety concerns were there, was to action institutional safety officers being on site at Health Sciences Center by the spring. That has happened. Institutional safety officers are on campus at HSC. The training is ongoing and they're rolling out across the province. It's also important for folks to note that investing in frontline capacity decreases pressures in ERs, which improves safety and security concerns as well. We've taken steps. There's more to do. That work is going to continue.
Member's time has expired. The honourable member for Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Manitoba Nurses Union has sounded the alarm about children arriving on a Friday needing to be admitted to the psychiatric unit, only to learn that the child psychiatric unit only has a total of 14 beds. If these beds are full on a Friday, these children and families have nowhere to turn. Child Psych has been having to admit overcapacity the past few months to accommodate the growing need for young people with mental health challenges. In light of the increasing number of children seeking mental health services, does this minister have any plans to expand the current number of psych beds in the children's psychiatric ward?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Again, a really important question from the member opposite. As somebody who worked on the front lines as an addiction specialist and worked with youth and their families in the area of psychiatric health, I take this issue very, very seriously. We are adding capacity across the system. We've invested in this budget over 150 beds being added to the system. Unfortunately, the previous government cut over 500 throughout the province in their 2 terms of government. We are adding psychiatric bed capacity to Health Sciences Center to the tune of 9 beds. But there's more work for us to be doing on this front. We've been working with the Minister of Mental Health on this front, working with our partners at the Children's Hospital, and we're going to keep taking steps forward in the right direction for families.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The number of children presenting with mental health challenges highlights the need that a youth mental health strategy is desperately needed. Does the Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living agree with the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth and many others that a youth mental health strategy is needed, and will they commit to implementing the strategy today?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I really appreciate that question. Youth mental health is an area of high priority for our government. I know that the minister responsible for mental health is working every single day to improve capacity in this area across our healthcare system, actively working with families and partners throughout the system to improve access to services. I also want to note that you have to take a holistic approach to this kind of care, which is why our government's investment to make sure there's a universal nutrition program is an important fundamental step to supporting kids having better outcomes and supporting their families as well. Again, our budget makes significant investments across the system. That work is ongoing. We're doing it alongside our partners throughout healthcare.
The honourable member for Radisson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the PC government closed emergency department after emergency department, leaving thousands of Manitobans without immediate access to emergency services. The Victoria General Hospital was one of many sites that faced emergency closures under their government, causing wait times to climb, workers to burn out, and patients to suffer. But today, we took a major step in undoing their damage. Can the Minister of Health tell the House about the announcement made today at the Victoria General Hospital and about how we're undoing the damage done by the previous government?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I thank my friend, the MLA for Radisson, for that great question. I am so happy to share that we stood today with the Premier, with colleagues on this side of the House, with many healthcare workers to announce the new emergency department at the Victoria General Hospital, the reopening of the Mature Women's Center, and the establishment of the Ann Oak Family Treatment Center. This $1.5 million investment fulfills a commitment that we've been talking about for a long time. Step by step, we're moving toward undoing damage that the previous government did. This announcement sends a clear message to Manitobans. You deserve quality health care where and when you need it, and you deserve it close to home here in Manitoba.
The honourable member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Genesis House is a shelter located in Winkler that provides a safe space for women and children. Their goal is that people in South Central Manitoba will be able to live their lives free of domestic violence. They offer an extensive list of programming of services that include support groups, counseling, a 24/7 crisis line, and much more. They have purchased land for a new transitional housing shelter to further expand their services to women and children fleeing domestic violence. Can the minister share what support is being offered to Genesis House by the province in this last budget?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker, and I want to say miigwech to the member opposite for that important question. Our government is supporting those that are on the front lines, that are working with some of our most vulnerable women and families, ensuring that they get the resources and the supports that they need and that they certainly deserve. As I stated earlier in my earlier question, we've invested $2.7 million towards the National Action Plan ending gender-based violence. Those dollars will support a myriad of programs and services that are coming into wage for support. As we, again...
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler on a supplementary question.
This new project will include 25 units with a variety of suites that will be able to accommodate families and help shelter support the unification of women and children in care. Southern Manitoba is desperately in need of this type of transitional housing and support for women and children fleeing domestic violence. The current shelter has been at capacity for all of 2024. The shelter has said they need significant financial investment to get shovels in the ground. So I ask, can the minister inform the House on how she plans to support the shelter in rural Manitoba, specifically Genesis House, and meet the needs of women and children in crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. Our department officials have been having discussions with Genesis House, and really I just want to take a moment to lift up the very important and critical work that Genesis House does on behalf of all Manitobans to offer that immediate support and that transitional housing that's so desperately needed for Manitoba mothers and women. Again, our department's been working alongside them and having some of those discussions. What we've found in the last many years under the previous failed government is that there wasn't a significant increase to budgets, and there certainly wasn't any commitment or increase to dollars in respect of transitional housing for women across the province.
Member's time has expired. The time for oral questions has expired, and I have a ruling for the House. Order, please. During routine proceedings on March 19, 2024, the Honourable Member for Riding Mountain raised a matter of privilege, alleging that during a debate in private members' business on March 14, 2024, the member for Seine River revealed details of a bill in the chamber before the bill had been introduced in the House and before members of the Assembly had the opportunity to review it. Order, please. The member concluded his remarks by moving that the Honourable Speaker immediately direct the government to no longer use debate to discuss bills that have not been introduced, and secondly, to immediately refer this matter to the Rules Committee. The Honourable Minister of Justice spoke to the matter before I took it under advisement. As members know, in order for a matter of privilege to be ruled in order, a prima facie case of privilege, a member must demonstrate that the issue has been raised at the earliest opportunity, while also providing sufficient evidence that the privileges of the House have been breached. On the condition of timeliness, the Honourable Member for Riding Mountain indicated that this was his first opportunity to raise this matter after taking time to research. Given that the incident in question occurred on March 14th, and that the member raised it on March 19th, 5 calendar days and 2 sitting days later, I would respectfully disagree with his contention that he raised it, this matter, at his earliest opportunity, and I would rule that he did not meet the threshold of timeliness. Despite that failing, the member did raise some important points in his submission. Accordingly, for the record, I will address the question of whether a prima facie case of privilege has been established. The member quoted Hansard from the morning of Thursday, March 14th, when the member for Seine River stated that there was a bill on notice which would hold polluters accountable and require them to notify all affected parties when there is a spill. The question of whether or not this is general or detailed information about a bill is, of course, subjective. In my analysis, the first part of this quote, that the bill will hold polluters accountable, is quite general, whereas the information about notifying the affected parties could be considered more detailed. Former House of Commons Speaker Peter Milken offered some useful information on the distinction between general and detailed information in this context. As has been referenced in rulings by previous Manitoba speakers, in 2003, Speaker Milken ruled that a significant burden of proof existed in order to achieve a finding of prima facie breach of privilege in relation to a claim of disclosure of a bill to the media before distribution to members of Parliament. He stated that unless there is some considerable evidence that the minister has made available copies of the bill to someone else, it's hard for the chair to find any breach of privileges of the House. The primary Canadian procedural authority on privilege also has some useful information to share in this regard. On page 224 of the second edition of Parliamentary Privilege in Canada, Joseph Mangot advises that a complaint that a minister of the Crown has made a statement outside the House rather than in the House may amount to a grievance against the government, but in the absence of an order in the House forbidding such activity, there is no personal or corporate privilege that has been breached in the doing. On June 2nd, 1983, former Manitoba Speaker Walding ruled that such a complaint may be a matter of discourtesy, but it is not a matter of privilege. Manitoba Speakers Phillips, Rocan, Hicks, Reid, and Dreger have all supported this sentiment in subsequent rulings. With all of this in mind, I am ruling that a prima facie case of a breach of privilege has not been established in this case. As your Speaker, however, I do feel the need to share a further thought with the House on this matter. The underlying principle in this discussion is the primacy and authority of the Assembly. We all share a duty to carefully consider the business before us so that we may make informed decisions on behalf of our constituents. Any matter destined for consideration by this House, including legislation, should be introduced and explained here first before being shared with the public or the media. This has been the practice of this place for many decades. That being said, in the last 20 years, it has become more commonplace for members on both sides of the House to discuss in general or conceptual terms potential legislation outside the House in advance of introduction. This has led to a gradual but noticeable erosion in respecting the primacy and authority of the House in this regard. I believe this is a crucial point to make in the context of this ruling, as well as the other matters of privilege which have been raised recently regarding similar circumstance. Over the past 2 decades in this House, MLAs from both the New Democratic Party and the Progressive Conservative Party have raised a comparable number of matters of privilege, alleging that members of the other party breached the privileges of the House by sharing information about a bill before it had been introduced in the House. In each and every one of these instances, the Speaker ruled that a prima facie case of privilege had not been established. Given that members of both parties have at one time expressed the sentiment that disclosing any information about a bill before introduction is inappropriate, perhaps members on either side of this House should govern themselves accordingly. Further, if members wish to settle this once and for all, the issue could be referred to a standing committee on rules of the House where a clearer practice could be considered and adopted. Thank you for your attention to this ruling. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
With all due respect, Honourable Speaker, I challenge your ruling.
The ruling of the chair has been challenged. All those in favor of sustaining the ruling, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. I believe the ayes have it. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Hi, can I request a recorded vote, please?
Can
I request a recorded vote, please? I know they're very loud on the other side, but and you can't
Order,
hear
please.
me, but...
Order, please. Order, please. The member for Springfield Rashot will come to order, please. A recorded vote has been called. Call in the members. Order, please. The question before the House is, shall the ruling of the Speaker be sustained? All those in favor of sustaining the ruling of the Speaker, please rise.
Is this mic on? I can't hear anything. Okay.
Honorable Mr. Canoe,
Honorable Mr. Canoe.
Honorable Minister Fontaine,
Honorable Minister Fontaine.
Honorable Mr. Weeb,
Honorable Mr. Weed.
Honorable Minister Azaguara,
Honorable Minister Azaguera.
Honorable Mr. Costitian,
Honorable Mr. Costitian.
Ms. Laughlin,
Ms. Laughlin.
Honorable Mr. Bushy,
Honorable Mr. Bushy.
Honorable Mr. Simard,
Honorable Mr. Simard.
Honorable Minister Marcelino,
Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Honorable Minister Schmidt,
Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Honorable Mr. Moses,
Honorable Mr. Moses.
Honorable Minister Naylor,
Honorable Minister Naylor.
Mrs. Schott,
Mrs. Schott.
Mr. Blaschko,
Mr. Blaschko.
MLA,
Pardon me.
Oh.
Mr. Malloway.
MLA Malloway,
MLA Malloway, then Mr. Blaschko.
Mr. Blaschko,
Mr. Blaschko.
MLA Chen,
MLA Chen.
MLA Moyes,
MLA Moyes.
MLA Pankratz,
MLA Pankratz.
MLA Devgan,
MLA Devgan.
MLA Cross,
MLA Cross.
MLA Loisel,
MLA Loisel.
Mr. Oxenham,
Mr. Oxenham.
MLA Dela Cruz,
MLA Dela Cruz.
Mr. Brar,
Mr. Brar. MLA Morose.
MLA Morose,
MLA Morose.
Mr. Vasiliu.
Mr. Vasily.
All those in the chamber opposed to the ruling of the Speaker being sustained, please rise.
Mr. Iwasko,
Mr. Iwasko.
Mr. Johnson,
Mr. Johnson.
Mrs. Stone,
Mrs. Stone.
Mrs. Cook,
Mrs. Cook.
Mr. Nesbitt,
Mr. Nesbitt.
Mr. Wharton,
Mr. Wharton.
Mr. Gertson,
Mr. Gertson.
Ms. Byram,
Ms. Byram.
Mr. Khan,
Mr. Khan.
Mrs. Hebert,
Mrs. Hebert.
Mr. Wochuk,
Mr. Wochuk.
Mr. Balkin,
Mr. Balkan.
Mr. Schuler,
Mr. Schuler.
Ms. Stephenson,
Ms. Stephenson.
MLA Bariza,
MLA Bariza.
Mr. Narth,
Mr. Narth.
Mr. King.
Mr. King.
We will now conduct the alphabetical roll call of members participating virtually. As a reminder to all virtual members, please respond clearly with either I vote yes or I vote no, only when your name is called. And I would remind members to unmute their mics only when they are recognized, and then immediately mute it again once their vote has been declared. Paige will now conduct the vote.
Mr. Ginter,
I vote no.
Mr. Ginter votes no.
MLA Kennedy,
I vote yes.
MLA Kennedy votes yes.
MLA Lagasse,
I vote no.
MLA Lagasse votes no.
MLA Sandu,
I vote yes.
MLA Sandu votes yes.
Honorable Ms. Smith,
I vote yes.
Honorable Ms. Smith votes yes. Well done. Yeas 29, nays 19.
The ruling of the chair has been sustained. Returning to business, petitions. The Honorable Member for Interlake Gimli.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. In 2022, according to Statistics Canada, there was an 11.4% increase in food prices 2, staple food products such as baked goods, margarine, and other oils, dairy products, and eggs have seen some of the largest price increases. Agriculture and the, number 3. Agriculture and the agri-food sectors contribute close to 10% of Manitoba's GDP. 4, there are an increased cost added at every step of the process for Manitoba's agriculture producers. In order to make 18 cents from 1 loaf of bread worth of wheat, farmers are paying carbon tax at every stage of production to grow the crop and get it to market. Grain drying, fertilizer, and chemical production, mushroom farming, hog operations, the cost of heating a livestock barn, machine shops, and utility buildings are all examples of how the carbon tax on natural gas and other fuels cost farmers and consumers more each and every year. 6, in food production, there are currently no viable alternatives to natural gas and propane. The carbon tax takes money away from farmers, making them less profitable and hindering rural agriculture producers' ability to invest in upgrades and improve efficiency while reducing emissions. 7, the provincial government neglected farmers in the 6-month fuel tax holiday until the opposition critics and local stakeholder groups called for their inclusion. Other provincial jurisdictions and leaders have taken action on calling the federal government to remove the punishing carbon tax and/or stop collecting the carbon tax altogether. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to call on the federal government to remove the punishing carbon tax on natural gas and other fuels and farm inputs for Manitoba agriculture producers and the agri-food sector to decrease the cost of putting food on the table for Manitoba consumers. This petition is signed by, let's just go with many, many, many Manitobans.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, the federal government has mandated a consumption-based carbon tax with the stated goal of financially pressuring Canadians to make decisions to reduce their carbon emissions. Pardon me. Number 2, Manitoba Hydro estimates that even with high efficiency furnaces, the carbon tax is costing the average family over $200 annually, even more for those with older furnaces. Number 3, home heating in Manitoba is not a choice or a decision for Manitobans to make. It is a necessity of life with an average of almost 200 days below 0 degrees Celsius annually. The federal government has selectively removed the carbon tax off of home heating oil in the Atlantic provinces of Canada, but has indicated they have no intention to provide the same relief to Manitobans heating their homes. Number 5, Manitoba Hydro indicates that natural gas heating is one of the most affordable options available to Manitobans, and it can be cost prohibitive for households to repair their heating source. Number 6, premiers across Canada, including in the Atlantic provinces that benefit from this decision, have collectively sent a letter to the federal government calling on it to extend the carbon tax exemption to all forms of home heating, with the exception of Manitoba. Number 7, Manitoba is one of the only provincial jurisdictions to have not agreed with the stance that all Canadians' home heating bills should be exempt from the carbon tax. And number 8, provincial leadership in other jurisdictions have already committed to removing the federal carbon tax from home heating bills. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. To urge the provincial government to remove the federal carbon tax on home heating bills for all Manitobans, to provide them much needed relief. This petition has been signed by Teresa Janin, Mike Thoreau, Donna Fraser, and many, many Manitobans.
The honourable member for Roblin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. You're in for a surprise. Over 25,000 vehicles per day cross the Louise Bridge, which has served as a vital link for vehicular traffic between Northeast Winnipeg and the downtown for the last 113 years. The current structure will undoubtedly be declared unsafe in a few years as it has deteriorated extensively, is now functionally obsolete and therefore more subject to more frequent, unplanned repairs and cannot be widened to accommodate future traffic capacity.
We're getting results, Jim, on that bridge.
Number 3, as far back as 2008, the City of Winnipeg, the city, has studied where the new replacement bridge should be situated. Number 4, after including the bridge replacement in the city's 5-year capital budget forecast in 2009, the new bridge became a short-term construction priority in the city's Transportation Master Plan of 2011. Number 5, city capital and budget plans identified replacement of the Louise Bridge on a site just east of the bridge and expropriated homes there on the south side of Nairn Avenue in anticipation of a 2015 start. In 2014, the new city administration did not make use of available federal infrastructure funds. Number 7, the new Louise Bridge Committee began its campaign to demand a new bridge, and its surveys confirmed residents wanted a new bridge beside the current bridge, with the old bridge kept open for local traffic. Number 8, the city tethered the Louise Bridge replacement issue to its new Transportation Master Plan and Eastern Corridor project. Its recommendations have now identified the location of the new Louise Bridge to be placed just to the west of the current bridge, not to the east as originally proposed. Number 9, the city expropriation process has begun. The $6.35 million street upgrade of Nairn Avenue from Watt Street to the 113-year-old bridge is complete.
113.
The new city administration has delayed the decision on the Louise Bridge for a minimum of 1 year and possibly up to 10 years, unless the province steps in on behalf of Northeast Winnipeg residents and completes the overdue link. Number 11, the Premier has a duty to direct the provincial government to provide financial assistance to the city so it can complete this long overdue vital link to Northeast Winnipeg and Transcona. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the Premier to financially assist the City of Winnipeg on building this 3-lane bridge in each direction to maintain this vital link between Northeast Winnipeg, Transcona, and the downtown. Number 2, to urge the provincial government to recommend that the City of Winnipeg keep the old bridge fully open to traffic while the new bridge is under construction. And number 3, to urge the provincial government to consider the feasibility of keeping the old bridge open for active transportation in the future. And this petition is signed by Errol Glenn Dixon, Ed Grenier, Todd LaBelle, and many, many, many other Manitobans.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader. On House business?
On House business.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Is there leave to interrupt petitions to give royal assent to Bill 200 and immediately return to petitions once royal assent is complete?
Is there leave of the House? Order, please. Is there leave of the House to interrupt petitions to allow for royal assent of Bill number 200 and then return to petitions at the conclusion of royal assent? Agreed and so ordered.
Okay, so then we're just going to pause for a minute while we arrange with the LG.
Okay. Petitions are therefore paused and we'll prepare for the LG.
do a map for them? Yeah.
Her Honor, the Lieutenant Governor.
Your Honor, at this sitting of the Legislative Assembly has passed a certain bill that I ask Your Honor to give assent to.
Number 200, the Firefighters Recognition Day Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks, and Months Act amended. Loi sur la journée de reconnaissance des pompiers. Loi modifiant la loi sur les journées, les semaines et les mois commémoratifs.
In His Majesty's name, Her Honor assents to this bill.
We will now please be seated. As previously agreed, we will now resume with reading of petitions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background to this petition is as follows, Number 1, period. The federal government has mandated a consumption-based carbon tax, with the stated goal of financially pressuring Canadians to make decisions to reduce their carbon emissions, period. Number 2, period. Manitoba Hydro estimates, that even with a high-efficiency furnace, the carbon tax is costing the average family over $200 annually, even more for those with older furnaces, period. Number 3, period. Home heating in Manitoba is not a choice or a decision for Manitobans to make, it is a necessity of life, with an average of almost 200 days below 0 degrees Celsius annually, period.
Oh no, don't spill.
Number 4, period. The federal government has selectively
We value punctuation.
removed the carbon tax off of home heating oil in the Atlantic
I don't think it was on the
provinces
survey, but I value punctuation.
of Canada, but has indicated they have no intention to provide the same relief to Manitobans heating their homes, period. Number 5, period. Manitoba Hydro indicates that natural gas heating is one of the most affordable options available to Manitobans, and it can be cost prohibitive for households to replace their heating source, period. Number 6, period. Premiers across Canada, including in the Atlantic provinces that benefit from this decision, have collectively sent a letter to the federal government calling on it to extend the carbon tax exemption to all forms of home heating, with the exception of Manitoba, period. Number 7, period. Manitoba is one of the only provincial jurisdictions to have not agreed with the stance that all Canadians' home heating bills should be exempt from the carbon tax, period. Eight, period. Provincial leadership in other jurisdictions have already committed to removing the federal carbon tax from home heating bills, period. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows, to urge the provincial government to remove the federal carbon tax on home heating bills for all Manitobans to provide them much needed relief. This petition is signed by Irene Abraham, Patricia Walsh, Janice Sayer, and many other fine Manitobans.
The honourable member for Fort White.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. Period. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background to this petition is as follows. Number one, in 2022, 2022, according to Statistics Canada, there was an 11.4% increase in food prices. Number two, period. Staple food products, comma, such as baked goods, margarine and other oils, dairy products, and eggs have seen, they have seen some of the largest price increases. Number three, agriculture and the agri-food sectors, agriculture and the agri-food sectors contribute close to 10% of Manitoba's GDP. 10% of Manitoba's GDP. 4, period. There are increased costs added at every step of the process for Manitoba's agriculture Sorry, I'll go back and repeat that. Sorry, I got thrown off. 4, period. Number 4. there are increased costs added at every step of the process for Manitoba's agriculture producers. In order to make $0.18, 0.18, 18 cents, sorry, from one bread loaf worth of wheat, farmers are paying carbon tax at every stage of production to grow the crop and get it to market. Number 5, grain drying. Grain drying, fertilizer, and chemical production, mushroom farming, hog operations, the cost of heating a livestock barn, machine shops, and utility buildings are all examples of how the carbon tax on natural gas and other fuels cost farmers and consumers more each year. Each year. Number 6, in food production, there are currently no viable alternatives to natural gas and propane. The carbon tax takes money away from farmers, making them less profitable and hindering rural agricultural producers' ability to invest in upgrades and improve efficiency while reducing emissions. Number 7, the provincial government neglected farmers in the 6-month fuel tax holiday until opposition critics and local stakeholder groups called for their inclusion. Number 8, period. It's bad. Number 8. Other provincial jurisdictions and leaders have taken action on calling on the federal government to remove, I can't repeat. Yeah, sorry.
I'd ask the member to read what's on the page and not keep repeating parts of it to try and make emphasis. Just read it as it's written, please. The honourable member for Fort White.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm just asking the Honourable Speaker if I can just go back. I think I was on point 8. I don't remember where I stopped on point 8. So I'm just asking the Honourable Speaker if I can go back to just start at number 8.
Yes. The honourable member for Fort White.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Number 8. Other provincial jurisdictions and leaders have taken action on calling on the federal government to remove the punishing carbon tax and or stop collecting the carbon tax altogether. Period. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. To urge the provincial government to call on the federal government to remove the punishing carbon tax on natural gas and other fuels and farm inputs for Manitoba agriculture producers and the agri-food sector to decrease the cost of putting food on the table for Manitoba consumers. Number 1, the full name, Don Bose. Number 2, Jonathan Damon.
Oh, I know him. Yeah, good guy.
Number 3, Lauren Hammond. And many Manitobans. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member for Interlake Gimli.
Yeah, I was seeking leave if the member for Interlake Gimli can read the petition from the honourable member on behalf of the honourable member from Turtle Mountain.
Is there leave for the honourable member for Interlake Gimli to read the petition on behalf of the honourable member for Turtle Mountain? Leave has been denied. The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Another mountain. Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background to this petition is as follows.
Just giving up, huh?
1, I'm giving up. Over 25,000 vehicles per day cross the Louise Bridge, which has served as a vital link for vehicular traffic between northeast Winnipeg and the downtown for the last 113 years. 2, The current structure will undoubtedly be declared unsafe in a few years, as it has deteriorated extensively, is now functionally obsolete, and therefore more subject to more frequent unplanned repairs and cannot be widened to accommodate future traffic capacity. 3, as far back as 2008, the City of Winnipeg has studied where the new replacement bridge should be situated. After including the bridge replacement in the city's 5-year capital budget forecast in 2009, the new bridge became a short-term construction priority in the city's transportation master plan of 2011. 5, city capital and budget plans identified replacement of the Louise Bridge on a site just east of the bridge and expropriated homes there on the south side of Nairn Avenue in anticipation of a 2015 start. 6, in 2014, the new city administration did not make use of available federal infrastructure funds. 7, the new Louise Bridge Committee began its campaign to demand a new bridge, and its surveys confirmed residents wanted a new bridge beside the current bridge, with the old bridge kept open for local traffic. 8, the city tethered the Louise Bridge replacement issue to its new transportation master plan and Eastern Corridor project. Its recommendations have now identified the location of the new Louise Bridge to be placed just to the west of the current bridge, not to the east as originally proposed. 9, the city expropriation process has begun. The $6.35 million street upgrade of Nairn Avenue from Watt Street to the 113-year-old bridge is complete. 10, the new city administration has delayed the decision on the Louise Bridge for a minimum of 1 year and possibly up to 10 years, unless the province steps in on behalf of Northeast Winnipeg residents and completes the overdue link. Number 11, the Premier has a duty to direct the provincial government to provide financial assistance to the city so it can complete this long overdue vital link to Northeast Winnipeg and Transcona. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. 1, to urge the Premier to financially assist the City of Winnipeg on building this 3-lane bridge in each direction to maintain this vital link between Northeast Winnipeg, Transcona, and the downtown. 2, to urge the provincial government to recommend that the City of Winnipeg keep the old bridge fully open to traffic while the new bridge is under construction. 3, to urge the provincial government to consider the feasibility of keeping the old bridge open for active transportation in the future. This petition has been signed by many, many, many Manitobans.
Order, please. The official opposition House Leader.
Can you please seek, if there's leave of the House, for the member for Interlake Gimli to read the petition on behalf of the member, the Honorable Almighty Member for Steinbach.
Order, please. Is there leave of the House for the member from Interlake Gimli to read the petition on behalf of the member for Steinbach? Is there leave? Leave has been denied. The honourable member for Steinbach.
I'll struggle through after capturing when we were losing my voice at the game last night. Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly, and these are the reasons for the petition. 1. Beginning March 17th, 2024, persons struggling with mental health as their sole condition may access medical assistance in dying unless Parliament intervenes. 2. Suicidality is often a symptom of mental illness, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for Canadians between the ages of 10 and 19. 3, there have been reports of the unsolicited introduction of medical assistance in dying to non-seeking persons, including Canadian veterans, as a solution for their medical and mental health issues. 4, legal and medical experts are deeply concerned that permitting Canadians suffering from depression and other mental illnesses to access euthanasia would undermine suicide prevention efforts and risk normalizing suicide as a solution for those suffering from mental illness. 5, the federal government is bound by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to advance and protect the life, liberty, and security of its citizens. 6, Manitobans consider it a priority to ensure that adequate supports are in place for the mental health of all Canadians. 7, vulnerable Manitobans must be given suicide prevention counseling instead of suicide assistance. 8, the federal government should focus on increasing mental health supports to provinces and improve access to those supports instead of offering medical assistance to dying for those with mental illness. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to stop the expansion of medical assistance to dying for those for whom mental illness is the sole condition. And 2, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to protect Canadians struggling with mental illness by facilitating treatment, recovery, and medical assistance in living, not death. Signed by many Manitobans.
Order, please. The hour being 5 o'clock, this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.